In this lecture, we would like to discuss the left out portions of democracy, that is relating to the merits of democracy. So, regarding that, we found the first important merit, that is democracy is a rational form of government as it is built upon the rational premise that no man is infallible, as every man is liable to commit mistake, as no one claims to be infallible. Democracy adopts a process of discussion and criticism in which every individual is asked to take part. So, in that regard, Professor Karl Popper, in his Volume 2 of Open Society and Its Enemies, observes the rational attitude is the bound up with the idea that everybody is liable to make mistakes, which may be found out by himself with the assistance of the criticism of others. It therefore suggests the idea that nobody should be his own judge. The continuous process of discussion and scrutiny in a democracy acts as a necessary corrective to abuse of power or error in judgment, and testifies to the rational character of democratic government. And the second, that argument in favor of democracy is that of Professor Tolman in his Origin of Totalitarian Democracy, as he expressed. Democratic approach assumes politics to be a matter of trial and error and regards political system as pragmatic contrivances of human ingenuity and spontaneity. And as regarding the merits of democracy, in the words of MacIver in his Modern State, justifies democracy because it is less dependent on the psychology of power. Democracy, because of its interlocking system operating through multiple checks, cannot create in the governing class a consciousness of superiority. Superiority in democracy, the government is a trust. Consequently, the governing class does not feel tempted to glorify or abuse power. And now we'll go to another important support in case of democracy is why Professor Garner in his work Political Science and Government, where according to him democracy is an efficient and responsible form of government, the method of free election of the rulers for such period by the people at large, and the method of popular control exercised at every stage of administration, either through criticism inside the legislature or through public opinion outside, makes the rulers extremely efficient and responsible. Popular election, popular control, and popular responsibility are more likely to ensure a greater degree of efficiency than any other system of government. And as regarding another important merit, we would like to discuss the views of John Stuart Mill and Lord Bryce. So, Mill's classic defense of democracy is based on the argument that the rights and interests of the individual are secure in democracy because he is himself able to stand up for them. Democracy offers every individual the liberty to vindicate his privileges. As lastly, we have to discuss the arguments laid down by Lord Bryce in his modern democracies. As the people participate in operation of the government, it imparts to them a sense of dignity and responsibility and stimulates their whole mental makeup. Democracy elicits and enlists for its operation the minds and wills of its members and thus aids the development of their capacities as individual persons. Thus, democracy contributes to character formation of the people and to the release of vast creative energy. So, we have discussed those merits as presented by Professor Karl Popper in his second volume of Open Society and Its Enemies, and Professor Talmon in his work The Origins of Totalitarian Democracy, also Y. McIver in his Modern State, and as Professor Garner viewed the merits of democracy in his work Political Science and Governments, also the views of John Stuart Mill and Lord Bryce in favor of the merits of democracy. And now we'll discuss certain demerits of democracy. And as regarding the very demerits of democracy, first would like to discuss about the views of Sir Henry Mann. So, Sir Henry Mann, since the age of Plato and Aristotle, democracy has been criticized on a number of grounds. So, democracy, it is remarked, postulates rule by average men and women. And as regarding that, we found as Sir Henry Mann wrote, there is no belief less warranted by actual experience than that a democratic republic is given to reforming legislation. And as the most important second demerit that associated with democracy is it is hostile to spirit of liberty. The ordinary man neither desires freedom for himself nor tolerates it in others. To place supreme power in the hands of the common people is to place it in the hands of those who have no understanding of the spiritual value of liberty. So it lacks the necessary character of vindicating liberty. And then we found the views of Robert Mitchell, who describe it as the iron law of oligarchy. So, according to him, the very operation and organization of parties follow closely the iron law of oligarchy. The ordinary people have no ability to make any political decision. Their political interest manifests itself in passionately following a trusted leader. In a political party, the leaders decide, and the rank and file simply submit. This tragic submission of the masses to the domination of political leaders makes a mockery of democracy and converts democracy into an oligarchical role as it is found as one of the most important demerits by Robert Mitchell, in which he termed it as iron law of oligarchy. And now we'll discuss another important demerit, and that is regarding the very dictatorship of the capitalists. So, the Marxist who believes in adapting the political structure and the economic system argue that democracy in capitalist economy is in fact the dictatorship of the capitalist over the proletariat, the working class people. So the logic of democracy, as the Marxist argue, stands in contradiction to the logic of capitalism. And the next criticism and the demerits of democracy is the slow decision making process. So, the decision making process in a democracy is complex and lengthy. Contrarily, dictatorship, because of unity of power, is complimented for its quickness in arriving at a decision and in mobilizing social energy and effort for effectively meeting a crisis. And as Professor Lord Bryce expressed while referring the next critic that it is money power in politics. So, according to Lord Bryce in his Modern Democracies, the painful effect of money power in politics, as commented on the power of money to pervert administration or legislation in democracies. The temptation of money to which the voters, the legislators, and the officials fall easy victims disturbs the neutral character of the state mechanism, which tilts in favor of those who are in a position to bribe. The resulting discrimination between citizens in respect of state benefits leads to gross distortion of democracy. And now we'll discuss another important demerit, and the critics found it as unscientific dogma. So, in regards to that, Professor Graham Wallace, in his work Politics, showed is only a slight degree of product of conscious reason. It is largely a matter of subconscious process of habit and instinct, suggestions and imitations. So, in a democracy where the masses are supposed to take part in government, the operation of crowd psychology take part in government. The play of the irrational are much in evidence. So, according to him, it is an unscientific dogma. And so also, we found another important demerits and criticism as regarding that, as the present system of democracy, usually based on geographical representation, is considered to be faulty because it works under the illusion that a representative can represent a voter's various interests. No person can represent another in relation to every conceivable questions and interest. One can represent only some specific functions. So, the functional representation, as Professor Cole in his work The Dynamics of Democratic Government says, all true and democratic representation is functional representation. So, in this lecture, we have discussed all the relevant merits and those adherents, supporters, and exponents of democracy, like the views of Professor Karl Popper in his second volume on Open Society and Its Enemies, and Professor Talmon in his work The Origins of Totalitarian Democracy. So also Professor McIver's views in his modern state and Professor Garner's views in political science and government. So also the views of John Stuart Mill and Lord Bryce we have discussed. And also regarding demerits of democracy, we have discussed the views of Sir Henry Mann, who regarded it as synonymous of conservatism, and it is hostile to the spiritual value of liberty. So also Robert Mitchell's explanation and criticism of democracy as iron law of oligarchy. So also Marxist views that democracy is nothing but dictatorship of capitalists over the proletariat and the working class, and also the slow decision making process and the role of money power in politics. That is also another important demerits and defect of democracy. So also it is an unscientific dogma, and how Professor Cole described that all true and democratic representation is functional representation. So these are the important demerits associated with democracy, and all the critics regarding those drawbacks of democracies that we have all discussed in detail. So, in our upcoming lecture, we would like to discuss certain important legal and political concepts such as liberty and equality.